The 2021 season ended in a very controversial way, and it seems like Mercedes isn't willing to let go that easily of the outcome. According to them, Red Bull has caused a breach that would have given them massive leverage in the championship, and they are looking for strong repercussions for the Austrian team if they were to be found guilty. On top of that, Ferrari is also throwing shots and pushing the FIA to do the right thing after accusing Red Bull multiple times of breaching the cap in 2022, even before the season ended. The Austrian team has responded to these allegations, and we're currently in a three-team war that is going outside of the track. So what is exactly going on between these teams? Stick around with us to find out more. Before we dive into the battle that is going on between these three teams outside of the track, just make sure to follow our channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell. As you already know, the budget cap was introduced in 2021, and it had one sole goal: to prevent top teams from spending as much money as they possibly can. That way, they won't be able to bring as many upgrades as the car needs in one race weekend, and it would ultimately lead to a more competitive season. Also, the midfield teams would be in a closer competition since their budget is nowhere near the same as that of Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull. The budget cap for the controversial 2021 season was $145 million, and for the season we're currently in, we saw it being reduced by $5 million. That is exactly what the FIA plans to do in 2023, as they would reduce yet another $5 million out of the financial limits of the teams. You're probably familiar with how the submitting work, but let's explain shortly in case you aren't. The teams are currently submitting the financial data to the FIA, and the governing body is yet to determine whether there was a breach or not. Apart from the team and the FIA, nobody else knows whether there has been an infringement of the financial rules, but Mercedes was quick to throw shade at Red Bull and say that they are one of the two teams that spent much more money than allowed. If a team was to be found guilty of a breach of the financial limits set by the FIA, the governing body needs to determine the extent of the breach in order to determine the penalty for the accused team. For example, if the breach is not bigger than 5%, which from the $145 million would be around $7 million, then the penalty won't be that big, and it's likely that the team will be grounded on a financial base. However, if the team has spent more than $7 million, then penalties like deduction of points, shortened time in the wind tunnel and the upcoming season, and shortened budget cap for the 2023 season can be applied. Verstappen and Red Bull's biggest concern right now is whether or not the team will be proclaimed guilty by the FIA and whether or not the breach was much more than 5%. That way, the 2021 championship title could be taken away from the Dutchman in the same controversial way that it was given to him. Interesting turn of events, am I right? If you like what you've seen so far, make sure to click the subscribe button and like our video. So what happens next? Let's go over the accusations that Mercedes made against Red Bull and how this war started in the first place. The Brackley-based team is obviously feeling bittersweet when it comes to the 2021 Drivers' Championship, because losing it in the final lap of the final race of the season is truly a bitter pill to swallow. If Red Bull was to be found guilty of a potential breach, then rest assured that Mercedes won't rest until they see justice being done. Wolff spoke about this matter, saying, "That is heavyweight offense. That is massively heavyweight. We are using used parts. We are not running what we would want to run, and we are not developing what we could be developing. We have made more than 40 people redundant, so they are deadly missed in our organizations. It was a huge, mammoth project to make the cap. I don't know how many tens of millions we had to restructure processes in order to be below the cap, and if someone has been not doing that or pushing the boundaries, every million over the cap spent is a massive disadvantage for us. I find it funny that Christian says Red Bull are below the cap because it's been weeks and months since they are being investigated, so maybe he doesn't speak to his CFO. As a matter of fact, all of us have been investigated diligently. As far as we understand, there is a team in minor breach which is more procedural, and another team that is fundamentally massively over. Ferrari is the other team that jumped on this matter, mostly because they have been really worrying about the FIA not paying enough attention as to how Red Bull spent its money in 2022. After Binotto called multiple times throughout this season that the governing body needs to be more careful and more insightful when it comes to the budget cap restrictions, this conflict between Mercedes and Red Bull could prove to Ferrari that indeed the Austrian team is spending much more money than allowed. The sport sporting director of Ferrari, Laurent Mekies, said that the Maranello teams trust the governing body to do the right thing, but they also need to prove the extent of the breach prior to bringing any kind of judgment upon Red Bull. It is a very serious matter, and we, therefore, expect a strict policy and full transparency from the FIA, the body that we trust 100%. If it is true, this will have far-reaching consequences. We take this matter very seriously, and we expect decisive action from the FIA. However, in recent months, the FIA has manifested itself strongly, so we rely completely on the FIA. We want a transparent competition with rules that are the same for everyone. The most important thing now is to determine to what extent the budget cap would have been exceeded and what the consequences would have been for 2021, 2022 and 2023. But whether the cap has been exceeded must be monitored most strictly. Some serious accusations from Mercedes and Ferrari towards Red Bull, right? Well, the Austrian team wasn't speechless in this matter, and Christian Horner spoke about the budget cap accusations that Mercedes are making towards his team. When talking about this matter, he said that he plans on taking legal action against these defamatory comments, and that there is no way someone would know that the other team caused a breach when the team and the FIA have no idea of what happened yet. Unless there is a clear withdrawal of those statements, we will be taking it incredibly seriously and looking at what the options available to us are. It is absolutely unacceptable to be making comments of the type that were made yesterday that are totally defamatory to the team, to the brands, and even to Formula One. It is a private submission between the team and the FIA, so how on earth can any team know the detail of our submission? How on earth can any team know that a team is in breach or not? We don't even know if we're in breach. We don't even know until next week, until the process has been completed. Perhaps when these accusations are made, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, and we take umbrage and extremely seriously the remarks that have been made. Verstappen backed his team principal, saying that he has full trust in his team, that they did the right thing when it comes to the financial aspect of the 2021 season, and that this topic should be closed right away. I know where the speculation comes from, so for me, it's okay. What I hear from the team, yes, I'm confident. Of course, then other teams started to talk about it when they have no information, and I find that a bit silly. Just keep your mouth shut. However, according to Lewis Hamilton, if the Brackley-based team had just $300,000 more to spend to the 2021 season, the outcome would have been different. Therefore, he believes that every penalty needs to be punished very strongly, no matter the extent of the budget cap breach. I remember last year in Silverstone, we had our last upgrade. Unfortunately, it was great and we could fight with it. But then we would see Red Bull every weekend or every other weekend bring in upgrades. They had, I think, at least 4 more upgrades from that point. If we had spent $300,000 on a new floor or an adapted wing, it would have changed the outcome of the championship. Naturally, because we would have been in better competition in the next race you had it on. So I hope that that's not the case for the sport. With that being said, it's evident that the FIA will have full hands of work in the upcoming period. They have released a statement in which they say that all of the submissions are currently being processed and any potential breach will be appropriately dealt with. What do you think about the war between these 3 teams? Do you think that Red Bull has indeed caused what they are being accused of? Let us know in the comments below.